Hello and welcome fellow motorsports fans. It's been a brilliant few days of racing and I am here to tell you all about it. Today's highlights include the Formula E final in London, F1 to 3 at Spa, and the last round of the European Karting Championship around Cremona. Off we go. The Formula E title got decided a little bit prematurely as Avalanche Andretti driver Jake Dennis managed to secure the championship on the first of the two races. This is less his own effort though, as it was Sebastian Buemi and Envision Racing letting down Nick Cassidy in his attempt to keep the title fight alive. The Kiwi successfully passed Jake Dennis, but then got stuck behind teammate Buemi, who refused to let him go despite being out of the title fight already. The pair eventually went for a prolonged wheel-to-wheel battle before Cassidy ultimately ended with a broken front wing, destroying his hopes and dreams in one short moment of incompetence from his experienced Swiss teammate. Mitch Evans managed to win the race, scoring crucial points for Jaguar in their attempt to take the team's championship. A 3-minute time penalty for technical infringements on Da Costa's car set Porsche back even further, 0 points instead of the podium Da Costa got on track. The second race was delayed massively due to rain and still happened in pretty tricky conditions. Cassidy got his redemption arc, leading lights to flag ahead of Evans and Dennis to secure the team's championship for Envision Racing while defending P2 against Evans. Porsche actually imploded enough to hand customer team Avalanche Andretti P3 in the team's championship as well. F1 experienced a weekend of classic Max Verstappen domination with 2 pole positions and 2 wins in the sprint and the race. The sprint was characterized by a delayed start due to wet weather, resulting in an odd start in which most drivers opted to pit for slicks after the first lap. Other front row starter Oscar Piastri managed to jump Verstappen for the lead during that process, but to nobody's surprise he couldn't quite hold on to it. Still a well-deserved maiden podium for the rookie. Verstappen had to start from P6 in the GP due to a new gearbox, but comfortably won by over 20 seconds anyway. Perez finally managed a clean P2 at least, despite still getting smashed by over 8 tenths in quali. McLaren suffered with a high downforce setup in dry conditions, meaning Norris just finished P7, while Piastri collided with Sainz in turn 1. Leclerc completes the podium ahead of Hamilton and Alonso. Tsunoda once again got robbed, finishing down in P10 due to a dubious strategy, but at least smashed Ricciardo. Pierre Gasly finally broke Alpine's horrible streak by taking P3 in the sprint race, his first podium at his new French team. Unfortunately, he was put on a questionable strategy during the GP, ending up P11 and thus behind teammate Esteban Ocon in P8. The F2 weekend sees a change for the championship lead as Theo Pourchaire takes 2 second place finishes while a struggling Fredrik Vesti had to settle for P6 in the sprint and crashed out on the recon lap in the feature, resulting in a horrible loss of points. Enzo Fittipaldi won his first race for Carlin after pole sitter Daruvala lost his headrest in the sprint race, causing quite a bizarre retirement. Richard Verschoor would have had P2 in the sprint, but got disqualified post-race due to an illegal throttle map. The feature race had Jack Doohan as the only medium runner in the opening stint, allowing him to benefit massively from a late race safety car to go from P8 to P2 before taking the lead from Pourchaire on his fresher and softer rubber, resulting in back-to-back feature wins for the Australian Alpine junior. Victor Martins would have completed the podium, but a penalty for speeding in the pits promoted Fittipaldi and Maloney to P3 and 4 respectively. P3 in the standings, Ayumu Iwasa, had a pretty terrible weekend, suffering from poor weather timing in quali and poor driving in the feature race, resulting in only 2 points scored over the weekend. His own chances at the title are thus disappearing more and more, while Jack Doohan and Victor Martins are coming closer to P3. An honourable mention goes out to Kushmaini. The Campos driver had a fantastic drive in the feature to go from dead last to P8. The Indian driver continues to exceed expectations round after round, and I for one really hope he can find the budget for a better drive next year. Formula 3 had its penultimate round, and all eyes were on championship leader Gabriel Bortoleto. The Brazilian had his worst weekend so far, failing to score for the first time since the opening round in Bahrain, and then immediately doing so twice. His sprint race was cut short as he had to retire the car and he suffered from a poor grid position in the feature, only clawing his way back to P11. Kaya Collette won the sprint race, finally getting his first of the season, ahead of Taylor Barnard and Paul Aron, keeping the championship dream alive. Pepe Marti suffered a crucial incident as he collided with Gabriele Mini, ending both of their races. The feature race had the most absurd finishing order, as drying conditions put teams on different tyres to begin the race, with the usual back markers from Genta and PHM all opting for wets. The slick runners were predicted to be stronger later in the race, but the crossover happened way too late, handing a maiden victory to Taylor Barnard ahead of Christian Menzel and teammate Nikita Bedrin. Paul Aron only finished P8 after leading early on before changing to the struggling slicks under a safety car, but because Bortoleto failed to score, he still has a theoretical chance. Although that would require a perfect weekend from him and no points for Bortoleto again, so it is still near impossible. As an honourable mention, Sophia Flörsch finally bagged her first points after missing out in Austria with DQ, finishing in P7 as last of the wet runners. Maurice Schuring takes his maiden victory in the Porsche Supercup, leading the race from pole position, withstanding big pressure from eventual P2 Bastian Boos, before eventually getting relief by a weather-related red flag, ending the race a bit prematurely. Dorian Boccolacci completes the podium after holding off Harry King in similar fashion. Larry Tenford had to settle for P8. Bastian Boos could still increase his championship lead ahead of Boccolacci and King, while Maurice Schuring is closing in on Larry Tenford in P4. With 3 runs left to go, Bastian Boos definitely looks like the guy to beat at the moment. The FIA European Karting Championship in the OK category went to René Lammers following a solid performance in the final to take home P4. Championship rival Gabriel Gomez was down the order and thus provided no real competition for the young Dutchman. The win for the weekend went to local driver Luigi Coluccio in his Tony Kart ahead of Prema duo Enzo Tanvanitschkul and Keen Nakamura Berta, who had a hard-fought battle all race long. Mercedes junior Alex Powell was only the 3rd best Prema, but still had a really solid race to take home P5 and thus managed to secure P3 in the championship for himself. The OK Junior final went to Tibor Ramicas. The young Belgian was on fire the entire weekend. Ukrainian Alexander Bondarev managed to take home P3 ahead of Dries van Langendonk, securing the championship title in the process. Lewis Werrell had a surprisingly mediocre weekend for his own standards, unable to break out of the deep mid-pack during the final. Jacopo Martinezzi had a good weekend once again, repeating his performance from the Champions of the Future round to take yet another 2nd place. The Academy Trophy also finished its 3-round season. Wojciech Woda took the first win from pole in the final, ahead of rapid French female driver Lisa Billard, who put in a mega drive to the front. Silkunas completes the podium after a hard-fought battle, but the real story played out a bit further down the order. Championship leader Hugo Marti started in P2, but couldn't quite hang on in front, slowly slipping down the order to P6. His nearest rival, Max Walton, struggled even more though, dropping down the order after an impressive lap 1 and never found the pace to recover, handing the championship over to the Spaniard. Marius Barry-Berg had a weekend to forget unfortunately, starting way down in the final before eventually retiring halfway through. Round 2 winner Apostolides was also stuck deep down in the mid-pack all race, while Panetta was having hard scraps lower down in the top 10. GT World Challenge Europe had its 4th Endurance Cup round, continuing the tight championship battle between the Rower BMW number 98 and the Acadus ASP AMG number 88. The 88 won the race in classic fashion, with Raffaele Marciello dominating the first hour from pole, Timo Boguslavski slipping backwards into the Fabian Schiller driven Almana AMG number 777, and Jules Gounon ultimately defended the lead against Schiller's teammate Lukas Stolz. I said it and I'll say it again, Gounon and Marciello in the same car is almost a cheat code. The Trezor Orange 1 Audi number 40 finally had the good result they deserved after a few unlucky DNFs, with Drudy, Marshall and Feller consistently working their way up to finish in P3. Thomas Preining in the number 96 Retronic Porsche and Patrick Niederhauser in the number 25 Centerlock Audi had the best duel of the race, battling hard for what seemed like the entire last stint before Niederhauser ultimately got the job done to take home P4. Honorable mention to the number 32 WRT BMW, which had a fantastic rise through the order during Sheldon van der Linde's middle stint, unlike the sister car Valentino Rossi piloted number 46, which eventually had to retire following an incident. Championship contender Royal BMW number 98 struggled for pure pace and was slowly slipping backwards, in particular during Nick Yellowlee's middle stint and the final pit stop. Thus, the 88 finds itself with a nice lead going into the final round. And now for our Around the World quickfire segment of the show. Aussie Supercars had their doubleheader at Sydney with a win for Triple Eight's Shane van Gisbergen and Erebus Motorsports' Brody Kostecki. Both drivers thus overtake their respective teammates in the championship standings, with Kostecki back in the lead and van Gisbergen back in P3. F1 Academy raced around Paul Ricard for its penultimate round, giving Prema driver Marta Garcia the chance to extend her championship lead even further by winning 2 out of the 3 races. Both Lena Bühler, who got herself a pair of second places, and Hamda Al-Kubaisi still have a mathematical chance to win the title, but Garcia basically just needs to keep it clean to win. The British feeder series GB3 and GB4 raced around Silverstone with a scheduled 3 rounds each, although the third race in both categories had to be cancelled due to weather. Matthew Rees and Mackenzie Cresswell took a win and a P2 each, with Callum Voisin and Timek Kucherek completing the podiums. Alex Dunn has finished slightly behind title rival Callum Voisin both times, and has thus just about conceded a championship lead to Voisin by a single point. GB4 saw Tom Mills continue his domination of the series with another pair of wins. British F4 continued at Croft, with William McIntyre and Louis Sharp continuing the championship battle. Young Kiwi Sharp won in both regular races, while McIntyre also made the podium both times. The reverse grid race went to Sonny Smith for the second time this year, while both championship protagonists failed to score. The American FIA Junior Series raced at New Jersey this weekend. USA F4 had 2 new winners with Alexander Burke and Titus Sherlock, making a push towards the sharp end of the championship in its late stages. Championship leader Patrick Woodstoth stayed at the top with 2 more podium finishes ahead of Michael Costello, who got his 3rd win of the year in race 2. In the tier above, Callum Edge's 8-race win streak got snapped in race 1 as Oliver Westling managed his first of the season before everything returned to normality with Kiwi domination. Cooper Backlund retains his mental streak of now 9 third places in a row at least. My driver of the week is Taylor Barnard. It feels weird saying that, considering how many different championship titles have been earned this weekend, but the hard work for that happened in the previous weeks and months. The young Brit is not exactly able to fight for a title, considering he drives a Genza in Formula 3, but has still gotten 2 incredible results with a P2 in the sprint, followed by a maiden victory in the feature. The youngster has shown glimpses of this throughout the season, and it only seemed like a matter of time until he would outperform the car to this extent, albeit massively aided by the correct strategy, of course. Either way, I sincerely hope he gets a proper drive next year, as he would be straight in a championship battle, no doubt about that. Who was your driver of the week? Let me know down in the comments. Next week's racing includes DTM around the Nürburgring, the return of MotoGP from its long summer break around Silverstone, and yet another IndyCar round, this time on the streets of Nashville. I'm already looking forward to telling you all about it next week. Until then, take care, and remember, racing is more than just F1.